This is my analysis of the Democratic primary debate held by PBS and CNN. Finally, we are getting some discussion which resembles a debate because it's one-on-one. The previous debate and this one, the candidates at least were arguing with each other, even though they don't have a chance to ask the questions that they think should be asked of the other candidate. So Bernie Sanders essentially made the case that Hillary is the establishment candidate. She's beholden to the special interest groups, to Wall Street. She gets all this money from Wall Street, so she's corrupt and beholden to them, and she's against universal health care. And so he is basically pandering to everybody in America who is envious of rich people and thinks that have a conspiracy mentality, which thinks that the rich people are controlling everything. If they did, we wouldn't have a progressive tax system, and they wouldn't be paying, the first 1% wouldn't be paying 30% of all the taxes paid. So that's just obvious evidence against that idea. But anyway, Hillary Clinton attacks how? Well, who does she pander to? Well, she's pandering to the black vote. Every time she has a chance, she sides with blacks against the rest of the community. She mentions black leaders. She wraps herself around Obama, and she says she was really in favor of universal health care. She tried it, but she wasn't able to accomplish it. But that is kind of inconsistent, because why isn't she for it now? Well, she doesn't explain that, but she reminds people that originally she was for universal health care, and she wasn't able to push it through the Congress. So essentially, these are the two positions. I thought Bernie Sanders won the debate in the sense of, I think he won more votes, more Democratic votes. He was able to show his bona fides in foreign affairs, which was supposedly his weakness. He handled that well, and I think the moderators were more or less balanced. They usually tend to favor Hillary, but I think they gave him as fair a shake as he's going to get. In this case, she didn't make the accusation that he had an artful smear against her, which is what she claimed when he mentioned that she was getting all this money from the special interest groups and from Wall Street and the bankers. So my previous criticisms, I've done a lot of these analysis of debates are more or less hold true. In this case, they don't identify the principle that they're going to use to determine when to go to war and when not to. They don't identify the real issue, which is deterrence versus preemption. Deterrence is we only go to war when we're attacked or an imminent threat of attack. Preemption is regime change. We go to war when we think we should, regardless of whether we're attacked or not, regardless of whether it's self-defense or not, regardless of whether the Constitution allows us to do that or not. However, in this debate, finally, Bernie Sanders started to make the argument against interventionism. Even though he didn't make it in terms of a principle, he did put forth the unintended consequences of the regime change policy that the United States has been following and that Hillary Clinton has been supporting. Specifically, she supported it in Syria, she supported it in Iraq, she supported it, I think, in Libya. In Syria, I think she supported it based on the red line that Obama crossed, or they crossed, and then Obama did nothing about whether we were going to bomb Saddam or Assad or not. Anyway, I think he got the better of her in this debate because his supposed weakness was not exploited by her. She resorted to a lot of details and inside baseball, which I think just went over everybody's head and didn't really have too much effect on the people she's trying to appeal to. Anyway, what were the questions that they didn't ask? Because really, all these questions are mostly softball questions, and when the debater doesn't answer them, they don't require them to answer them. If you've seen any of my interviews, you see that's quite different when I interview someone. So, what should they have asked her? Let's start with Hillary. Well, they should have asked her about the emails. They should have asked her this first question, which is, are some top secret classified emails classified even though they're not marked classified because of the content of the email and the source that's in the email and the revelation about sources and methods? She would have to admit that there are many classified emails that are not marked classified, but everybody knows they're classified, and you're supposed to know they're classified because of the content of the email and the source. So once she admitted that truth, then she should have been asked, did you receive any such emails that were classified but not marked classified? And then you would get around her defense about all these emails. There's 24 of them that are top secret that the FBI is looking into and may or may not recommend a prosecution. You would get around her excuse that, oh, they weren't classified or somebody took the classification off or whatever. That's not the issue. So that is a question that they should have asked. Just 2 questions. She would have been dead to right. The other interesting thing about her defense on the email issue is that she has been saying that why don't they just make the emails public? Which sounds like, well, I don't have nothing to hide, just show the emails. But if the emails are in fact classified, she's suggesting that they should make them public? That doesn't make any sense. That would be gross negligence on the part of whoever made them public. So she knows that if they are classified, they're not going to make them public. So she can appear to be open about it and nothing to hide, when in fact it's just a sleight of hand. If they do not have something, if they are put forth and made public, well, that proves they're not classified. So either way, she would win. If they don't make them public, she wins because she says, well, I said to make them public. And if they do make them public, she says, well, you see, they made them public, so they must not be classified. Interesting little ploy. I thought I'd put that out there because you won't see any of that anywhere. So what about the principle about redistribution of wealth? Did either of them come out in favor of a principle that explains why we should redistribute the wealth of the American citizens? And if so, how much and why? Well, they didn't identify that principle either. But it's all a game about promising more goods, more free goods and services. Each one wants to outdo the other, trying to promise more free goods and services. And Bernie always promises more than Hillary. And she tries to say that it's not true, but everybody knows that. He is to the left of her, which means he will redistribute more. That's why he's a socialist, and she isn't. So that's the game that's going on there. Anyway, both of them attack the wealthy. They're going to tax the wealthy, and they're going to get all the money that they want from this 1% and the rich corporations. But what are they going to do if that 1% leaves the country or the rich corporations leave the country as well, which is what they're doing already because we have such high taxes? I mean, even if they didn't leave, there's not enough money for them to take to pay for everything. So obviously, ultimately, everybody has to pay because the wealthy don't have enough to take away from them. One of the ways that you see that they pander, and they were pandering especially to the South Carolina voters, is pandering to the blacks, the special interests of the black community, blacks, etc. Something that I really hate. It's identity politics, it's collectivism, it's treating people based on the group on which they form a part, not as individuals. To say, the blacks think this, well, some blacks, I assume, if they're thinking for themselves, think one thing and others think another. What the color of their skin should have no effect on what their values are, what their character is, what their actions. But the way they refer to them and the way they try to garner their votes is by appealing to them as a racial special interest group, which is essentially racism. And both of them, of course, they say they're against racism, but that mentality is a racist mentality. So that's a contradiction that's involved in all their thinking. But it's effective because apparently not enough black people see through it. So they buy into it and they're all in favor of whatever more special interest group, special benefits you can afford us, send them over, we'll enjoy them. Now, it was interesting that in debate they asked about should the white people be resentful? So the women have to be resentful, so you have to pander to them because they're making 79% of what the men make. That's a bunch of nonsense. It's not the same job that they're doing. It's corporations would, if that were true, would just hire women and they could reduce their cost. Obviously, the people have to be paid in general on their merits. If not, the employer is the one who suffers for that. So they pander to the women, who's going to give them more special benefits, who's going to give more special benefits to the blacks. And now in this debate, they were asked whether the whites should be resentful, and then they said yes, the whites also can be resentful. They're also agreed. Which ones? All of them except that 1% wealthy white. Those are the ones that can't be resentful. So we'll take everything from them and give it to all the other people that are resentful. This is called class warfare, and it's horrible for our country. It's pulling the country apart by dividing the country in groups and pitting them against each other and appealing to them, to one group at the expense of the other, pandering to one group at the expense of another, is very harmful, and it is the essence of democratic politics. So to give some more specific examples, they say that the blacks are being punished in the justice system. They're not treated fairly. More blacks are arrested than whites, etc. The laws are passed to harm the blacks. The blacks are shot in the street. How horrible it is that it is horrible that a few black men have been shot unfairly, unjustly, but also a few policemen have been shot by black guys unfairly and unjustly. And what's worse, even worse than either of those two cases, is all the black people that have been shot by other black people in black ghettos where they aren't getting the protection that they deserve. Nobody talks about that, but that's what's really killing a lot of black people. No big protest about that, no appeal to that, no mention of that. That is the whole hypocrisy and double standard here. Well, they're politicians appealing to special interest groups, so that's what they do. On trade policy, Sanders is more protectionist than Hillary, and he blames, like Trump, the lack of high wages here in America for more free trade policy close to it we have with China or with Mexico or whatever. They think that protectionism will solve the economic problems. In fact, that'll just raise the price of everything and reduce the little efficiency that we are receiving in our economy by doing trade, international trade, by benefiting from the fact that we can produce things more efficiently here and sell them over there, and then buy the things that they produce efficiently and buy them here, and both sides benefit. That's why trade is beneficial. It's called comparative advantage. Apparently, neither of them have heard about it. Anyway, that's essentially what I have to say, and I like your comments. I hope you enjoyed the debate as well, and let me know what you think.